Okay, perfect. Well, I am super excited that everyone is here. Welcome to First Wednesdays. As a reminder, each First Wednesday call is uploaded publicly to Gretchen Heido's YouTube channel. This call will not be edited, so if you don't want your image or voice on YouTube, please keep your mic muted and camera off, but we would absolutely love it if you do participate, and we're excited to hear everybody's thoughts and everything. And so First Wednesdays are for any coach who wants to build their coaching business. So in tonight's topic, in tonight's call, we're going to be talking about the shift from side gig to six figures. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to Gretchen now.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Side gig to six figures. So,
Yes.
I think that this is important for us to really talk about is that a lot of times coaches get into this industry, and there was a huge, huge influx during COVID, right? Where everyone was showing up and starting to become a coach, even people who had never thought of coaching and that sort of thing. And then the industry got inundated. And here's the thing to know about coaching is that it is like, hi, Marielle, good to see you. It is like any other profession. What do I mean by that? That if you want to make it a true career, you have to show up for work, And so a lot of times I know what coaching school does because I am a professor at one of the coaching schools is we do a really good job of teaching coaches how to coach, learn the ins and outs of the coaching field, how you get the topic, how you get the outcome, how you get the measurement. But a lot of times coaching schools are not quite as focused on the business development part. And so coaches go to these schools, they get certified, but then there's this gap. And so for a lot of well-meaning coaches, they did intend for it to be their career. They did think that it would be their full-time thing, only to find out that the business development part is actually harder than they thought. And so then it turns into the side gig or more of a hobby rather than something that they're really trying to do out there in a world. And a lot of them, they go back to like a 9 to 5 job, and that's okay too. So what we're going to talk about tonight is for those of you who really do want this to be your career, what do you have to do that? What does that actually look like? For those of you who are comfortable with this being a hobby, no problem, but we'll have time for questions for both. So just in the chat right now, oh, hi, Diana, nice to see you. In the chat right now, take a moment and just tell us if this is your full-time or part-time career. Just put in the chat either FT or PT. I see some full-time, some part-time. Okay. So mixed, we've got a mixed crowd here. And that's completely okay. And what we're going to talk about today is really what you would need to do to go from it being part-time to full-time. We're going to talk about mindset, we're going to talk about the actions that would need to be taken, those sorts of things. So that's where we're going to start today. So one thing that I want everyone to think about is what do you think the difference is? And for all of you too, who are saying that this is your full-time, but what is the difference for you from being a full-time professional coach to a part-time, maybe more of a hobby coach? What do you feel like the big difference is? And you can just unmute and we're going to talk about it. I see money. Yes, that's what I think too. Money's a big difference. What else is a difference?
Discipline.
Discipline. Yes. And Marielle, when you say that, discipline of what?
Of the self, of the business. This is your 9 to 5. You're holding yourself accountable. I get up every day at 5 a.m. and I go to work when I go to work, and it's in my home office
Yeah.
most of them.
Yeah, that's it. I see that. And so someone else, who else wants to share? What do you feel like the difference is between full-time and part-time?
Motivation.
Motivation. Say more, Jill.
Well, for me, I'm not doing it really for the money. And so my motivation's very different. When I was doing my sales, I was very driven, but this is a much more, relaxed, enjoyable. I'm not pushing myself too hard to deal with everything. So it's just a very different motivation.
Yeah, different motivation. Okay. Anyone else? Difference between full-time and part-time? Edward,
Access to clients.
access to clients. Yeah. Yeah. Say a little bit more about that.
Well, part-time, you are comfortable saying, I want to just take two or three or whatever your quantity of clients are because you have your other interests or your other career, to rely upon. If
Mhm.
you are going full time, whatever your goals are, you need to fill your docket. You need to be able to reach out more clients than you've ever thought, that you were able to do before. So it's marketing, sales, it's networking, all of that.
Yeah, a lot of different pieces there. Thank you. Barbara, I see you sharing in the chat. Can you unmute and share with us your thoughts?
Yes, I am working now as 3/4 time as an employee, and besides doing coaching. So it's good for me because I have the certainty of my paycheck every month. I am in a team, so it's for me it's very nice to dress up every morning, to be nice and pretty, to go to work and then mingle with people. So that's the good part of that, as opposed to being a full-time coach, meaning working here in my office, dealing with myself, sometimes my anxiety to find new clients. And I believe you do need a community, but even that, it's a big work to
Yeah.
to find the community, stick to it, maintain the community, blend with the community, be accepted, respected, giving back, taking. So it's also a full-time job to be part of a community and get something from that.
Yeah.
Does it
Thank
make sense? No?
100%. You hit on some good points there with community and the difference in being in community rather than being in isolation or working alone and those sorts of things. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you to everyone who shared. So, the two,
Can I say one thing, Gretchen?
yeah, Diana, go for it.
For me, there's something that's connected to skill level, skill development, and practice. So that for me, when it was a hobby or a side gig, if I was a little bit, and I don't want to say sloppy because I take pride in doing everything the way that it should be done. But if I didn't if I wasn't on top of my game, the stakes were lower.
That's
But
right.
if it's a full time, I need to understand and take seriously my practice and make sure that I am in tune and in line with the skill and be on top of my game at all times.
That's right. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So here's something for all of you to think about. If you want coaching to no longer be a hobby or your part-time gig, the first thing that you need to do is make a choice. That's always it. It's a choice that this is what you are going to do. So that's the mindset that needs to be developed from that choice. With that mindset, it's that I'm a professional and then taking actions that professionals do. So that's the part there. And we need to have the discipline to be able to take those actions. So when you have the mindset that allows you to step into this idea of being a professional coach, you will have some discipline. And then there's, like I said, the actions that go with it. Now, sometimes people aren't even sure where to start with the actions because it's their first time being an entrepreneur. How many of you, just raise your hands, is this, coaching is the first time that you've been an entrepreneur? Anyone? Yeah. So some of you is your first time having your own business, first time being an entrepreneur. And so with that, there's a lot of questions that happen. And a lot of times people can get overwhelmed with that. They get paralyzed. They're not really sure where to start. They spend a lot of time on things like making a website, but not a lot of time on things like client creation, and they get lost in the weeds. Okay, so when we think about being a hobbyist, a part-time coached hobbyist, the mindset might be things like, I'll do it when I have time, or If I feel like doing something else today, the weather's nice, maybe I'll go to the beach instead of looking for clients. These are good ways to know that this is a hobby. Maybe even you might be avoiding doing things that feel uncomfortable, like figuring out where to find clients. It's more of a hobby. Or maybe you're still fumbling around with pricing and those sorts of things. That's how you know that it's like, okay, I'm not quite into this as a full-time professional coach yet. Where the professional mindset means that you're treating your coaching business like your career. This is your job. That if you were the director of coaching at Microsoft, you're showing up the same way you are as if you're working in your bedroom, right? And so that's one of the key differences. So for me, I've got a home office these days after COVID. I think a lot of people just have home offices, but I still get dressed every day. And I know that sounds really funny, but it's not, it's not business on the top, party on the bottom. I'm not having like a clothing mullet going on. I dress professional, and I do that on purpose because it makes me, like Barbara said, I like to get up and look pretty and be professional and be ready to go. So it's one of the first things that if you're a professional, you do have a schedule. You do show up appearance-wise to be ready to go. That helps your mind frame. You also have consistency in your schedule. So even though sometimes there are days that it looks beautiful to go to the beach because I'm in Los Angeles, if I have clients that day, I'm not canceling them so that I can go to the beach. It's not appropriate. If I were, again, the coaching director at Microsoft, I wouldn't have that luxury either. And so for some people, they'll say, but Gretchen, isn't this why we have our own business, is so that we can have our own schedule? The answer is yes, and yes, you can do that. But if you'd like to be profitable, you still have to show up to work. So what I've done, just so that I can make sure that I am disciplined and that I do have time to still see clients, is I've created a schedule of what I know really works well for me, for my own bandwidth. Because as a professional coach, something else that you want to make sure you're doing in your mindset is having enough time to be able to fill yourself up, because we can get depleted really easily. It's a lot of outpouring. It's a lot of creating sacred space. Listening can be exhausting. And so we need to make sure that we have enough time built in there for ourselves and for creativity as well. And ... there's the client creation part. And so it's a lot of pieces that are in this profession. So the way I like to have my calendar set up is that I know I coach clients on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. It's like, how'd you pick that? I don't know. I just picked it because I like Tuesday off. That's my day that I'm working on my programs, like my Bold program for women, or my Stairway to Six program for coaches, or a newsletter, or whatever it is. That's my thinking day. That's the day I meet with my own coach. So I'm still working, but I'm not trying to coach people for 2 hours and then do marketing for an hour and then coach for another hour and then check emails. My brain doesn't work that way. I need chunks of time where I know that, okay, today's creative day. This is just what I'm doing. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I know that I am not going to be doing creative work. I'm going to be coaching. And while that's creative, it's a different side of my brain. It's the part about where I'm thinking through, how can I really be there for this particular client? If I am trying at the same time to think of my newsletter and build a program, then nothing gets done, because that doesn't happen, nor does good client creation or relationship. I like this, Marielle, you've got your marketing Mondays, that's it. And then on Fridays, most of the time I take that day off so I can have a 3-day weekend. And sometimes if I am in the middle of a big marketing campaign, or it's a day where I might do an offsite with a client, I know that Friday is the day where there's time. I don't have to try to figure out where it is. I just know that it's going to be on Friday. So that's one thing that professionals do. They are the master of their time. So let me just pause there. I love this. Gretchen is my people. Yeah, Flex Fridays. That's it. What are you hearing about this when it comes to being a professional? Give me some feedback.
May I share something I've read? So I've read in a news magazine that the best way to be creative is doing absolutely nothing.
Mm, mhm.
And so by saying nothing, it's not even the washing machine or the dishwasher or whatever, it's nothing. So in a way, being bored, because boredom is very productive for the brain.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Thanks, Barbara.
I think organization is key. Time management is absolutely key because it's so easy to get distracted, between family or social media or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I notice it with my clients. I have a few clients who are authors, and they really have to sit there and put themselves into that situation, and it's very difficult for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we have to do that also, as you said, Creative Day, that's reserved for just that. And it gives you that space, you know?
And I like what you said there. And this is where when entrepreneurs say, but didn't I become a coach to have some flexibility? You create your flexibility. It's like, yeah, I have a creative day. There's the flexibility in that. I have Flex Friday. I have whatever it is, but you work on your working days. And the other thing with your mindset that's really important is, decide. I do. I think like, well, if I were the coaching director at this big company, I wouldn't be trying to leave to go to the beach. I'd be at my desk doing my job. But when we have that hobbyist mindset, we don't behave the same way. Edward, go ahead.
What I'm taking away from this conversation, as the entrepreneur, I get to be the boss and create the vision, but where I can be much more successful is also to have the mindset that I'm also the employee that needs to be accountable to being at my desk and having boundaries about what is acceptable and not acceptable. Perhaps I've been leaning too much into the boss mindset, but if I really want to be, successful, lean into the employee mindset too.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Galen.
Just one thing that's coming up for me with this is that how I feel uh, is often cued by what I do. And so just by making regular time, by being consistent, that uh, that makes me feel like, oh, I'm really doing this. And as I feel like I'm really doing this, I'm really building a coaching business, I'm showing up, I'm available for coaching, I'm doing these sort of things, then that influences my actions too. If I feel like I'm really doing it, then I'm more likely to keep doing it and to take actions and to keep building and to talk to people too, because I'm doing this. And so I'm if I'm not talking to people, I feel like talking to people. And again, like all that whole train of like, how do I feel? What do I do? Where does the feeling come from? Comes first from, setting an environment, which may just be a time that where I know that I do it every day. And if I'm sitting there and I'm bored in that time, I'm gonna do something with it. So it all kind of sets up a virtuous process.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Part of it with the doing it as well as that as professionals, it's the decision to do it. It's the discipline to do it. It's the discipline to take the action, to sit there, even if you're not quite sure what you're going to do. So here's something else that I want everyone to think about. With the professional mindset, something else to really be not concerned, to really be taking into account is, are you being paid for coaching? If we are professionals, most of the time we are earning an income. Now, listen, I know some people are going to do things pro bono. We all have different structures for our pricing fee, no problem. But are you being paid? And so one of the great things to do right away is to get a paid client. Nothing makes you feel like a professional more than a paid client. And so do what you need to do to get to client number one, then client number two, then client number three. You want to be able to do that, but you don't have to think of it as clients with an S at the beginning. Think of it as getting a client. And then that leads to the next one because you get more comfortable each time in doing it. So for all of you, go out there and make it your goal that in the month of November, you will get a client. It will truly help your professional self-esteem. It's back to what Galen said, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. And then as we're doing it and you earn the income for it, you have a different positioning with yourself of the way that you feel. So that's something else that I really recommend as well. You know, here's something too. You've all heard about my Stairway to Six program. And since I've done it so many times at this point, I can tell you that one of the themes is this. A lot of the coaches come in, they think that they're a professional coach, but they find out during the program that, maybe this is more of a hobby than a profession after all. But the Stairway to Six program really gives them the structure of what they need to do. And Diana, I see you just nodding your head. Can you unmute and share about that? She and Edward were in the last Stairway to Six.
So toward the end of the Stairway Six, and this is piggybacking on what Edward said about you're the boss and you're the employee. To my horror, I realized that because I was new, I was also the HR person, the finance person, and the clerical support person. And I was confused and I didn't really know where to start. And I thought I needed to start with like, oh, I need a website or I need like, marketing. And at the point that it was get a client and then you'll be a professional and get paid, I realized, oh, I need a structure. And that up to this point, I had been doing coaching in something that I thought was coaching for many years, but as a sideline, as a side hustle, and that becoming a professional meant having that mindset, that discipline, and that consistency. And I felt really overwhelmed. And it occurred to me, I had like a moment where I realized I'm over my head. This isn't what I need to be doing, but I wanted to do it. And I had to get the structure. And so Stairway to Six gave me the client creation structure. And yes, Galen, once I started doing it and doing it and doing it, and even doing client creation activity that didn't always end up in a paid client, but still doing that professional. So yeah, I remember being horrified and realizing I needed a mindset change, but I also needed a behavioral change. Because as a new entrepreneur and a new coach, I had a lot of roles and a lot of hats, and I needed to have structure in order to be able to do those things. And that the first thing I needed to do was get a paying client.
Yeah. Yeah. And Galen, I see your hand. I just want to respond to this. So what happens is that we decide, yes, we're professional coaches, but then we don't know what to do. And so here's something else, taking professional actions, even if you don't have a paid client yet, taking professional actions will help you to step into your professional self. And if you take enough professional actions, it will pay off. And Galen, I'm going to get you 1 second. I want to go to Tamara for a minute. Can you share about these wins for you? And I'm feeding you a little bit of what I want you to share, but these last week's wins for you and how you had been taking professional actions and it felt like it's not paying off, and now what's happening?
Yeah, I just had the experience working with Gretchen's framework over time, and sort of having a lot of what felt like stop start, something, there's an opportunity and then it wouldn't materialize. And so I had a conversation over a month ago with somebody about possibly doing a coaching engagement in his law firm, and I followed up to schedule the follow-up conversation and I didn't get any response. And then I sent another email and I still didn't get a response. And then finally, just last week, after over a month, he responded. He had been busy, and now there's a conversation on the calendar. And I think another example that Gretchen's talking about is I had done a gift coaching session with a friend, and I got a call from her, or a text from her really last weekend, saying she had given my name to somebody else as a referral. And I had my first connection call with her earlier this week, and it was a great call. And she's very excited about the possibility of working together. But as per those of you who are familiar with Gretchen's Stairway to Six format, I told her that we first have to do a gift coaching session together, so that's scheduled. And she asked me about the program and how coaching works, and I really didn't hesitate to offer her what was my highest recommendation, which is a 6-month program, and I'm excited to do the gift session with her next week.
Yeah, thanks, Tamara. And so Tamara and I have been working together for some time at this point. And with many coaches, it goes that they're doing it, but they can't see it yet. And so a hobbyist coach, what happens is they give up. They give up, or they start doing things haphazardly. They don't have a system that they're following. They try one thing with one person and then another thing with somebody else, instead of being a professional that knows this is going to work. I just need to stick with it. It's going to work. Not every client is for me. Not every person needs to be coached right at this moment. So in your professional mindset, you need to learn the framework of client outreach in order to be able to fill your calendar. But when you're trying, oh, this week I'll try social media. Next week I'm going to try talking to 3 people. The week after that, I'm not going to do anything because nobody talked to me in the first place. The week after that, I don't know what I'm going to do. Ambiguity makes it very hard to step into being a full-time coach. Galen, now go ahead.
It may not even be that important anymore.
Okay, up to you.
Yeah, interesting. As you're talking about that, it's making me think. Yeah, it seems like it could be easy to be caught by as Diana was talking about, having to wear all these hats or realizing that she's wearing all these hats. It seems like it'd be very easy to slip into doing one thing here, one thing there, if you didn't have a clear thing like priority of, I need to be full on getting a client, and these other things may need to be done at a certain point, but I got to get the client first.
Yes, yes, good. Because that's it. In order for you to really have some discipline, your goal needs to be connection calls. That's what it is. You do not get clients or decide that you're a professional coach or make professional income. And I'm talking professional income, not you're a kid, and this is your part-time job income, that sort of thing, but professional income that you feel proud of, that can cover your expenses or as well along the way to do that, and then maybe can cover your vacations and. So that's what we're looking for. You will not have that if you don't have calls. And so this is where it becomes really easy on one hand and complicated on the other, because your one job is to make connection calls, because the connection call then leads to a gifted coaching call. The gifted coaching call can lead to proposing to the client. Proposing to the client can lead to the paid contract, which leads to coaching, which leads to renewal, which leads to referrals. So when I get coaches that are confused about what it is that they're supposed to do, the answer is really simple. It's connection calls. Make sure you're having connection calls with people to talk about who they are. What do they want? What's hard for them? Where are they stuck? What's their heart's desire? What's that thing that feels silly to still be talking about for them? What do they need to move the needle on that if they did, everything else would change as well? What are they sick of hearing themselves say? What are they really trying to work on? What are they embarrassed about that they don't want others to know? When you have conversations like that during your connection call, not coaching yet, but connection call, that leads to the interest for coaching. That leads to a gifted coaching session. But if in your connection call, what's happening is that you're going so fast and you're trying to talk to them about pricing and, oh, it's 3 months and 9 sessions, there's no actual connection there. And so that's why I'm saying it's really clear and easy on one hand, and it's complicated on the other because it's like, well, how do I do it? And so in here, Olivia just dropped it. Everyone, if you haven't already downloaded it, this is one of my gifts to you. It gives you connection call scripts. Make them your own, but these are good starters. And you know, the people in Stairway to Six already have them, but these are things that you can use right away. It's a good way to reach out through email. There's good ways to reach out through text. There's good ways to lead you through what do you do when you have someone on a connection call. But this is going to make it more clear for you and take some of the ambiguity out of it. I know that when I first started, I didn't know everything that I'm teaching you now. I definitely didn't know that I should be making sure that my calendar was just full of these connection calls, which would lead to coaching calls. And I definitely didn't know how to slow it down or what to say. But the key difference in what's going to take you from this being a hobby to a true career is booking connection calls, making sure that you have people that you're talking to without being worried about will they become a client. Because when you get on that connection call and all you're thinking about is, are they going to be my client? Are they going to be my client? Are they going to be your client? The answer is no, they're not going to be your client because they can feel that. Barbara and I had something, was it this week, Barbara? This week or last week where we were going to talk and the timing wasn't right. And I didn't stomp my feet or do anything crazy. It was like, yeah, do this when it's right for you. Do this when it's right, because when it comes to connecting with people, it's not some bait and switch. It's not, I'm going to show a different version of myself. It's, is there a connection here that I can help with where this could go further? Diana, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, so
Yeah.
I finally got it and started just spending most of my time doing client creation. One of the things that I'm doing with people with referrals, referral partner or people that I know, people on my yellow list, green list, I mean, is I'm asking them if they know anybody. And so I've gotten people referred to me, and they're people that I don't know. And I'm not sure if I should be booking a connection call and starting a conversation because I can't start it with, oh, thank you for reaching out for coaching, because they didn't reach out for me. Or whether I should treat it as an outreach call and just say, oh, I got your name from such and such or such and such, thought that you would be a great, person to have a conversation with. So I'm not quite sure if that's the connection call and if I should start it that way or just an outreach to get them interested.
Let's talk about it. So first of all, congratulations that people are starting to refer you. That's big progress, and I'm so happy to hear it. One thing that I recommend anytime someone says, oh, let me refer you, is before they do, ask that person, what do you know about this person that you're referring to me? Why do you think they're a good candidate for coaching? What makes you feel that now is the time? Then I tell that person, you know what, instead of sending that bridge email, Gretchen meet Diana, Diana meet Gretchen, blah, 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 instead of doing that, gift them a session with me from you. That way, the person who got the gifted session, they got it from somebody else. So it truly does feel like a gift. And then it's appropriate for you to reach out and say, hey, I know that Joanne gave you a gifted session with me. Let's get that on the calendar. Then you have the first connection call to get some background information and to teach them a little bit about what you're going to be going over during their first coaching call. And then you coach them. Then from there, you get to see how it lands. Does that make sense, Diana?
Yes, because because I did the whole gifted thing and I have a couple that I need to schedule, and I didn't know whether or not I was scheduling a coaching session or a connection call with them, but that makes sense. People have gifted them to me, and now I can reach out and have the connection call
That's
to get
exactly.
them. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Get them
Thank
to get
you.
them booked and scheduled.
Yes.
And Galen, I see for you too that you're saying this is, kind of the tough nut to crack. Take a look at those at the scripts. And I don't really even like the word script that much, but it's just guidelines for you. Make them your own, change them, or just use them. They do work. But when you think about it, it's going to tell you different ways to even find people. Like, who would you be reaching out to? What do you say to them? And a good way to think about this is, as a professional, when you're sitting down to work during working hours, think first of who would I like to work with? Who would I love to coach? Make a list of those people, and that's your natural place for reaching out first. We don't have to make it hard. It doesn't have to be that you're, putting all these things on social media in hopes that somebody sees it. Really let it drop in. Now, if you do want to use social media for it, LinkedIn is a really good way to do that. You can have true conversations with people on LinkedIn. You can look them up. You can say what was interesting in their profile. You can talk about how you might be able to help. But all of us have at least 3 people that we can say we would love to coach. And if you can't think of 3, think of 1. Always start with your 1, and it builds. And it's just that momentum of doing it, reaching out, and doing it again. Did you have anything you wanted to ask or say to that, Galen?
Not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So professionals are always doing client creation activities. I've been at this for 10 years, and still I spend a good portion of each week doing client creation activities. With past clients, I will do a lot, and current clients, I do a lot of what I call client astonishment. Really giving your clients a great experience, doing something unexpected is a fabulous way to keep that client or to get a new client. So often, let's say I'm coaching someone and they're a part of a partnership of some kind, and I hear what's going on with their spouse, their business partner, their whoever, I'll say, give them a session with me if you think that that would be helpful. I'm happy to talk to them about this. Because sometimes when people come to you for coaching and you ask them, what would you like to work on today? They want to work on changing so-and-so. Well, you can't really change so-and-so, but if it would be helpful, give them a session with me. Or you're going to hear about the different things going on in so-and-so's life. It is a very kind gesture that usually will blow your client away when you do this. And you will find that maybe you start coaching that other person as well. So that's one thing to do when you think about client astonishment. The other thing for client astonishment is, what does this person really need? What do they really need? Sometimes with clients, they need a big mind shift. They need to be provoked in different ways. They really need to be able to see themselves deeper. And so ask those questions, astonish them with what they're going to find out about themselves. That's a great way to coach. It's a great way to get client return. Now, let's say that, during these conversations, these connection calls, you're applying client astonishment. Can you imagine how many of them will become paying clients if you are doing this during the connection call on that gifted conversation? If you can astonish them there and really help them plug into their own vision, their own value, their own purpose, their real reason for wanting change, that's almost all that needs to happen most of the time for them to want to take further action. Almost always. And I'm not saying that with every client they're ready right in that moment, and almost all of them are going to say that's a lot of money or I have to figure it out. That's fine, but astonish them, give them a real experience, and know that while you're doing that, you are not just auditioning them. They're not just auditioning you, you're also auditioning them, because that can take off some of the pressure. It's like you don't even know if you're willing to work with them then. You're going to coach them. It's going to be hopefully a really good experience. They're going to get a great aha moment and some movement, but you're also deciding in that amount of time, do I want to work with this person? Am I excited about who they are? Am I excited about what they do? So let me pause there. Any questions, comments? Here's how you, go ahead, Marielle.
I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I did have something. I've found a challenge in coaching individual clients and getting referrals in the past. I have had referrals, but just getting more kind of enough consistent referrals. I'm sure there might be a few things that contribute to that, but group, it strikes me that when people are in groups, they tend to talk more. And that it can be a challenge sometimes when you're coaching individual clients where in generating that kind of energy where they talk about it with others. I wonder if you have any comments. So, I mean, just currently, one of the things that I'm looking at in terms of client creation is how do I talk to groups of people and create situations where people have a shared experience that then they can talk about with each other and they feel more willing to share with others.
So the question on the table right now is how do I create a group that you can coach in real time and get them to talk to each other? Or the question is, how do I get individual clients to have the same energy as a group?
I think my question is we're talking about, it sounds like individual client creation here, one-on-one kind of stuff. And as we're doing that, what from your perspective is the thing that really gets the person, once they've had a great experience, coaching experience with you, to share with others?
Typically, it's because something pretty significant in their life has changed and they tell people about coaching. So for me, what I have found is that many of my clients go out and tell other people, oh, you have to talk to my coach. Oh, you're going through that right now. You got to talk to Gretchen. Oh, you're building a business. You need to talk to Gretchen. So it's a lot of it is the consistency, though, and doing it over and over again. It's not just one great experience that an individual client has had with you. It's a series of great experiences over a period of time that then make them tell other people.
Okay.
Yeah. And Marielle, what were you
Thank you.
going to say? I saw your hand.
Thanks, Christian. I was trying to put it in the chat, but something's wrong with my keyboard right now. I apologize. I was getting texts about the fires up here while you were talking about the client astonishment stuff. And I missed 1 and 3. I got what does this client really need, where you gave the examples of do they need to be provoked, but I totally missed the 1st and 3rd thing, and I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh. Olivia, do you remember what 1 and 3 are? I don't remember. We might just have to go back and rewatch it.
I have no
One
problem.
gift.
I love your
One
stuff.
is-
You have astonished me on multiple occasions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Bill, did you have them? Did you write
Yeah,
them
the
down?
first one I wrote down as a gift. Second one is what does the client need? I didn't put down a third. I think it was more of the client contact and keeping up with the client, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
I also want to say that the follow through is just so important. You know, a system of follow through. Like people say, you know, I'm not ready now. Why don't you talk to me in a month or in 6 months? And to have a system down so that you actually put it in your calendar, it's astonishing. People are like, wow, you know, this is great timing, or, you know, you just get this conversation flowing and they realize that you're thinking about them.
yeah. And they might even say, I was just thinking about you. So what I like to do with that is, let's say during that first connection call, and then it went to a coaching call, the person's not ready right then, but they want to do coaching at some point in their life. I typically will put something in my calendar for 3 months from now, and I will just email them and say, how's it going with whatever the thing was? And this is where they get to tell you, like, I've done nothing with it. Oh, it's really going well, or whatever it is. But it is provoking, because we always want to be provoking the client to be thinking. Okay. So the other thing too that you want to make sure that you're doing is when you follow up, the follow-up needs to be with intention, not just, hey, just checking in on you. Saying, I'm just checking in on you, you might as well say, just seeing if you're going to give me money, because that's really what it means, and it's more honest. So instead, what you want to do is, if you check in on someone, make sure that there's a point to it. Did you read an article that made you think about them? Was there a podcast that made you think about them? Why are you checking in? What I can guarantee is that if a person wants to work with you, you do not have to check in. You do not have to check in. If they want to work with you, they're going to reach out to you. If you've already given them this experience of you and everything else, if they want it, they know where to find you. So I do very little check in with people, almost none, to be quite honest. You know, that after we've had that coaching session, it depends where we leave it, but I'm not prone to 2 days later to say just checking in. It's really, I want to leave it in their court. Coaching's either for them and they want it or they don't. So that's something else to know too. You really want to take any neediness out of your approach because professionals aren't needy. You know, dentists aren't chasing people down to do dental cleanings with them. That's just not the way it works. I don't get emails from dentists out there in the world saying, hey, do I get to clean your teeth? You know, that's just, it's not the way it goes. So you really want to decide that you're a professional like a dentist. You're a professional like a lawyer. You're not a professional, you know, that has kind of that seedy feeling to it. We're not trying to get one over on anyone. We're not trying to get them before they change their mind. I often, even when a potential client says, yes, let's work together, will say, sleep on it. If you're still a yes in the morning and I'm a yes in the morning, then we'll do it. And, you know, coaches, when I say this, like, why would you ever do that? Why would you not get the money that day? And it's because I want to make sure that the person really is ready and committed. Otherwise, what happens is you're chasing them down for money. You're reminding them all the time to make their appointment. They're not actually following through on the coaching. So we're looking for a level of readiness. And that's another distinguisher when it comes to being a professional coach. Are your clients ready? Have you had to talk them into it? Did you feel yourself manipulating the situation? Do you want to coach them more than they want to be coached? Those are all indicators that you are stepping out of professionalism and into more hobby type thinking. All right. What kind of questions do you have? I want to make sure that we have a little time here. Who has some questions about being a professional coach? Or comments?
I have a question.
Hi, Nina.
So the target audience that I have, or my wishful thinking target audience, are attorneys and legal professionals. And they're so overwhelmed, you know, they're dealing with overwhelm, burnout, stress, anxiety, depression, etc. They're so busy. And they probably all would say, yes, I know I need coaching, but I don't have time to even go to the bathroom, let alone an hour to spend with you. How do you convince them?
I don't, and I do work with attorneys. The thing is this, when we want something, we do make time for it. And so if you can do a good connection call where you really help them tap into their big vision, that it's like, hey, so Lita, I hear that you're really wanting to create this coaching business where you serve attorneys and you'd like it to be something that's turnkey. You want it to be fun. You want it to be exciting. You want it to be fulfilling. And then I talk to you about your son because I know you have a son or whatever it might be, that like your big vision of the thing that you deeply want. I don't have to talk you into that. You're talking yourself into that. You know that you want that. So I don't talk people into it. I've had executives ask me things like, can you coach me on a Sunday because I work during the week? And I'm like, yeah, this is my job too. I work during the week. No, I can't coach you on a Sunday. You know, so it's again, it's putting it back in their court that just like any other professional, if they want it, they will make time for it. Now, sometimes with my attorneys, we will do 30-minute laser sessions. That's what I call them. They like the word laser. And for some reason with attorneys, if you say 30 minutes, it's like they can figure that out. They can figure out the 30 minutes, you know. And I do have morning sessions available starting at 7:30 on 2 days of the week, because I know that for my attorneys or my surgeons, they need an earlier time. And so I'm okay with that. I've built that in for those types of people. But no, I'm not going to talk them into it. Does that help?
Yes, yes. I like your 30-minute laser sessions.
Laser sessions. We're going to meet twice a month for 30 minutes laser session.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Who else? Questions or something that this is sparking for you? Okay, I'm going to go to one more distinction then of becoming a professional coach. A professional coach does not fall into the potential client's money or time story. Okay, so professionals are not worried about if they have time, if they have the money. Professionals are very able to focus on what's true. And so they do not follow the potential client down their rabbit hole. Where a hobbyist coach, someone newer to the game, not quite as business savvy yet, gets really nervous about that and is discounting before they've even told them the first price and is doing all kinds of tricks. Yes, I'll see you on a Saturday. Sure, I'll coach you at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, whatever it is. And what happens is it's not really helpful. When we stay in our professional self, the potential client sees the value that, oh, I'm really working with a professional. This isn't someone who, you know, is just going to be sitting around in their yoga pants trying to coach me and saying a few things. That, you know, we have professional self-esteem. So that's something to remember too, is that when a client starts talking about their money, well, you know, it's really tight right now, it's this or that, you don't need to convince them. What they typically need is an experience with you. And so that's where professionals know to say, hey, I get it. It is a lot of money. Never argue with their money story. That is a lot of money. And I wouldn't want you to do it unless you were 100% sure that it was going to work for you. And you know what? We won't know that until we coach. So let's schedule a session. I want you to bring something important to you. It might be, and then you can reflectively listen something that you heard in the session that day, but bring it and let's see what we can do in that 55 minutes. Then at the top of that next session, you set it up where you say, I'm glad that you're here. Here's the one of three things that is going to happen today. You know, we're going to coach. At the end of this time, you might feel complete. We'll put a bow on it. I might have some resources to send to you, or you might have questions about how we work together. That way, they're not waiting the whole time for you to sell them. And they really do get the coaching experience. But that's how a professional would handle this. They're not like, oh, well, you can only meet then. Oh, okay, well, I just want to have lunch on Tuesdays then so I can coach you. That's not the way we do this. Oh, I'll give you $500 off. Why? That you don't even know if they need $500 off. People find things, places for money and to invest in when they find it valuable, when you've really touched on something that's important to them. So those are your big distinctions of professional versus side hustle. Let's hear some of your takeaways. What'd you get?
This
I-
feels really good about the consistency that I've been applying.
Thanks, Marielle. Diana, what were you going to say?
Pretty much the same thing, and the reminder and another kind of layer of the mindset and the consistency.
Yeah,
That's
mindset and consistency. Who else? What's another takeaway? Let's get one more.
You need to be organized with time management skills.
Yeah. And now let's get some actions. Because of this talk tonight, what are you going to go and do so that this isn't just one more info session that you sat in on, but it's something that you can turn into client creation? What might you try?
I discovered that I'm not really spending enough time. I'm not throwing enough mud at the wall because I'm doing client creation on the same days that I'm doing other things, and it's a different mental energy that I need. So I block out a day that I'm only doing strategy and that I don't, my inward facing days. And then I have outward facing days where I'm coaching or I'm, meeting, doing connection calls. But the actual, what I call throwing the mud at the wall in hopes that some of it will stick, I'm not doing that for more than a couple hours, 2 days a week, and it's not serving me well.
Okay, so report back to us in December what shifted for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who else? What's an action that you're going to take because of our call tonight?
Well, I'm not sure to totally understand I understand the content of the connection call, but who is my target? I'm not sure about that. Could you please repeat?
Well, for you, everyone's target is a little bit different. It's who would you really like to coach? And for you, with some of the things that you're working on and working towards, I bet we could come up with a list pretty easily of who you'd like to coach. And that's who you would reach out to.
Okay.
Yeah. Think about the workshop that you want to put on. I bet that there's some people that you could think of that you would invite to something like that. Okay. Who else? What are you going to commit to trying?
I'm gonna read the connection call scripts and just see where that could start to fit in, or I could start to work with that.
Fantastic. Anyone else? Takeaway or an action?
I'm gonna schedule another 10 connection calls for this week.
There you go. Love that enthusiasm, and that's the way we do it. That's the way that you move from side hustle to business and being a professional. I do hope all of you will download the scripts, see what you think of them, try them out, make them your own. And if anyone is interested in more information of Stairway to Six, the next cohort does start in February, and there's already some people on this call that are going to be in that. So if you think you're interested there, you can email me. But I'm so happy to see all of you. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving month, this month of gratitude. And thanks for joining tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for your time always, Gretchen.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Good to
Good
see
seeing
you all.
everybody.
And Lita,
you.
we
Good night.
showing up at the same places. I'll talk to you soon, Lita. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you
all.
very much. Bye bye, Gretchen. Bye bye, everybody.
Take good care.
Bye.